Thanks, Frank, and welcome back, everyone. Someone's told me that the reason Seinfeld was so successful was because they never did anything that had to do with politics or a date or a time. And I think that the content from here should stand the test of time and be good for whenever you decide to watch it. But I will try to tie something a little bit into what this month is important for, which is International Women's Day. And I hope that everyone takes the opportunity to celebrate women and fight for equality and diversity and inclusion. And if you're here with us live today, please thank a woman in our comments or tag them so you can let them know how much you appreciate them and are championing for what they want and what they need to make sure that we do get equality everywhere. So congratulations to everyone that celebrates and seeing that success, and let's help those that need it as well. Today we have a unique show that we haven't done yet, and it's sort of the three-part series that we're putting together for developing future leaders of tomorrow. Today we're talking about building a legacy and succession planning. And during our interview process, you'll meet Jake in a little while, and Jake gave us a quote. He said, "Legacy is what you write on the hearts of others." It's powerful today when we talk about what a servant leadership is and what it really takes to build a legacy, to talk about succession planning. And I do think it takes a high level of emotional intelligence we'll pack a little bit later on this year. But what does it really take to truly engrave that lasting message on the heart of those we lead? So to embody this form of leadership, we must listen empathetically, act with humility, and understand what those emotions that drive our team towards success, to make sure that they can lead when we leave, and to guide others with compassion and support our team's growth, both professionally and personally. So today, I hope we have a unique and hopefully, if you're not ready for it, a transformative mind shift in our show today. That'll continue with our next show, which will be about mentorship in the coming weeks. But here we're going to start with a new friend of mine who came to me last year at a time when I needed her. I'd like to invite to the screen today a friend of mine, Taja Graham. Taja is a marketing leader with 2 decades of experience driving consistent growth and achieving a top market position with a key eye for operational excellence. She's maintained a notable sub 10% employee turnover rate through strong leadership and innovation, counted Market Durntown, spearheading digital marketing drive, netted $1 million+ new revenue, and with expertise and growth in P&L management, talent development, Taj has significantly grown digital revenue, consistently delivered results that surpass industry standards. My friend Taj, it's good to see you.
Robert, I'm so glad to be here today with you, my friend.
Well, welcome, my friend. And Taj has introduced me to another very special person who we all know that is writing on the hearts of others. And I'd like to invite today Jake Stamper. Jake is Jake brings 25 years as a dynamic chief missions and marketing officer, excelling in entrepreneurship with a track record of owning, operating, and selling companies. Renowned for his leadership, Jake's commitment to his values, innovation, communication, and business acumen has made him a trusted advisor globally, propelling nonprofit startups and corporations to success. His strategic insights, philanthropic approach have consistently fostered growth-inspired cultural achievement. And I think the testament to what Taja has introduced to me with Jake is true to who Taja is and the impression Jake has had on their lives together. So Jake, welcome.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you having me on the show today. And thank you, Taja.
Well, welcome both of you. And I've talked all week, and we posted on the marketing for this. Legacy is what you write in the heart of others, Jake. And I'd like you to start with that and where that comes from, Jake, and what that means to you, because as you know, when we talked about this, what it meant to me and how important it was. So if you don't mind unpacking that a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to. I came to the realization that legacy could not be material. It could not be educational or academic in nature. P&L management, customer acquisition, managing human resources are things that you can learn from a lot of different people, academic institutions, or from a ton of business leaders. And those things are very tactical, very logistic. And so I wanted something more meaningful. And so coming up with legacy being what you write on the hearts of others digs a lot deeper into the heart, the soul, and the mind of the person, and it expands into getting to the foundation of what makes people tick. And so when I look at succession planning, I look at, is there an alignment of our hearts? Do we think alike? Do we and not do we share the same values? Do we understand and approach the business and professional world in a manner that allows us to refer back to the principles that we align with? And so that's what I write and try to write on the hearts of others, are the key principles that are going to guide us through thick or thin in business.
Jake, and I truly believe in leading with your heart. So if you get the opportunity to write in the hearts of others and embody that in what you do in your succession planning, I think that's a perfect way to live and live your life. So Taja, tell me, how do you know when you're ready to start succession planning?
I don't know for me personally, if I knew exactly when I was ready. It was a question that was posed to me that really pushed me to thinking differently. I've been fortunate through my career to have had success where I was able to climb a ladder and do some things that were pretty significant, not only in the one company dynamic, but within an industry dynamic that is very unique. And Jake has been along with me on that ride. And my last opportunity for that advancement, my boss sat me down, and probably one of our first conversations, he said, "So who's going to succeed you after you're done?" And when he said that, it kind of struck me, because I was like, "Well, wait a minute, this is our first time meeting. What do you mean? What does that mean?" And one name resonated to me, and that was Andrea Kahrer, who you'll get to meet here shortly. And that was really when it really dawned on me what that meant as far as my legacy, my succession, who could emulate and have passion for it the way that I did, who really embraced the change or the need for change, who had the heart for people dynamic, and who knew me vulnerably, in a place where I could share tears with her, I could laugh with her, I could really just be myself with her, and vice versa. You get to know someone on that level, then you really do have a clear picture of who that person is. And then that led me to, okay, so what do I need to do to prepare this table for her, to make sure that that it be this exact seat, or a seat that is similar but in a different operation. She's prepared, that the people that will be a part of her team dynamic would be ready for her, and those things is what you start to then work upon. So at the time I didn't know, but it was in asking the question that I then began to say, this is my purpose, this is my reason now, is to be able to build this for her to take it on and move forward.
So I appreciate, Taja. So you had an open mindset, you had high emotional intelligence, you didn't look at it as a threat to your role, which I think many, when they look at succession plan, will. And I want to come back in a few minutes to unpack the things you did, so we can give the people who are participating with us in the chat or watching in the future some key element and tips to do that. But Jake, if I could ask the same question to you, when do you know you're ready? I know the companies you've built, you pride yourself on building immediately the framework to build succession. Tell me where you started that succession planning. How do you know in each organization when you're ready for succession there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robert. And I have to dovetail on something Taja said, because Taja and I have been doing this a long time. We've probably been hanging out and doing life for 15 plus years. And there's a couple of triggers that happened that when I knew I was ready for succession. Taja and I started our careers 15, 20 years ago together doing millions of dollars worth of business. And our conversation then, as younger individuals, was around creating career success. It's how do we build the businesses that we're in? How do we serve our employees? How do we make the P&L work? And I remember these conversations with Taja for many, many years, and something organic started to happen between Taja and I. And that was, we started talking about organically a shift in our priorities. And so the conversation went after many, many years from P&L and building business success and those type of things, it evolved into a different set of priorities. And it's how are we pulling alongside of others? Our self-reflection shifted. And so what was one time a priority of building business turned to a priority of spending more time with my wife, spending more time with each other, and building a vulnerable, authentic, genuine relationship, not just between Taja and I. We were two business leaders doing our thing, but then to extend that out and say our priority is no longer ourself, it's no longer our personal gain, it's no longer about our reputation, it is about who we're going to pour into, and we're going to set our side, we're going to become less so that others can become more. And so that happened on a colleague to colleague basis, but then it started happening with Andrea and Kolton, which you'll see later in this show. So it's, my short answer is when, excuse me, when your self-reflection begins to shift away from yourself and toward others and toward other priorities, that's when you better start thinking about succession.
So I do want to get to the how, but Jake, you just said something, and I'm going to take us back, and we'll have to come up with some nickname. And Confucius isn't going to be great for you, but we'll get to this because people understand. You said another thing in our interviews. Trust is not established in a P&L. Trust is established in one-on-one relationships, and I've talked about this being the year of trust. So you just hit that a little bit. Do me a favor, talk to me for a few seconds on where why that's important to you, that quote, and then how you develop that trust.
Yeah, well, I spent my initial years in working on building career, and that doesn't mean trust. And I came to the realization that the P&L and the customer acquisition and the human resources and all the attorneys and the accountants and the everybody that it takes to run a successful business, there wasn't a trust. It was a business relationship. It was a transaction. And so when I quoted to you, or when I said to you that trust isn't established in a P&L, it's not. That's an academic function that you can hire out to somebody that is blessed and fortunate to be able to do those things. Trust is established in that one-on-one relationship where you're truly vulnerable, where you're truly authentic, where you make a deliberate effort, very intentional, to remain humble, to not be angry at someone when they screw up or when they make a mistake, but to say, oh, I did that. And so, yeah, the trust comes in, again, the intangibles that they don't teach at universities. It comes in the, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. And Taja referenced this earlier, somebody you can cry with, somebody that you can laugh with, somebody you can have and do life with, attend the funeral and attend the baby birth. That is where trust is established. It's when you're needed most and when I'm needed, and vice versa.
Thanks. And the trust was transferred. I mean, Taj, I think it was Stephanie that connected us. Maybe was it Stephanie Krevins?
Yeah.
And I get an email from Stephanie the other day as I'm doing her podcast. How do you know Jake Stamper? And I'm going to see Stephanie this weekend and her new baby. And congratulations on that, Stephanie.
Yeah.
But Taj, so tell me, trust is built, and how you now, and we're going to bring Andrea in here next. But how do you now set up Andrea for success? What are you doing first?
Well, first and foremost, you just got to be open to conversations or on when you're needed, you're present, right? And that's always been one of my priorities in anything that I do. That anyone that is calling on me, that I can be fully on present to what they are talking about, what their needs are. A good example is Jake and I, again, talking about that trust. I'm at a part in my life where I'm right in the midst of a big opportunity in a business venture. And one of the first people that I knew I could call on was Jake. I wanted his consultation because I trusted that he knew me best. He knew what I was wanting to get done in this phase of my life, because we have had these conversations. We've talked. We've had a lot of personal conversations. I knew what he has done in business, how he has moved in business, and I trust him to give me that guidance. So, and I knew that he would be present for me, that he would be there, and he has. He's been there probably more intense than I have been present in the discussions about this, but that's what I've appreciated. And so you mirror that because it's shared, right? So as he's called on me, I've lent the same as others do. That has been the same case. But in the case of Andrea, we were intentional in spending a lot of time together, not only in the office, but outside of the office. As I've seen her grow personally, to become a wife and a mother, and just her growth there. Then also that in the professional space, it really gives you a good understanding of the individual. And therefore, you then can allow that trust factor to come into place. It's a space that is protected. There are things that others that have been around us collectively might not know what has happened to us in person. And that's a trusted environment. That's important to me. But more importantly, that when she calls on me, that I can be present in the moment that is needed.
So a theme I've heard here today and in our previous calls is the four of you know each other very personally in and out of the office, right? And that's unique to, I guess, where we are in this century, in this time we're talking about here, where we are in today's world. And technology, as Richard Bliss once said, we knew that personal and professional relationships changed when the first dog jumped on someone's lap during a Zoom during COVID. Jake, how do we know Taja was ready for the next step, for the next phase of her career when you were helping her in her career?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, Robert.
When Taja just talked about how you were helping her through that, but how did you know Taja was ready after you embarked all your wisdom on her? What was the moment that you knew Taja was ready?
Well, it's an interesting question because there's so much trust and relationship and decades of such between Taja and I that when she called me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about this," I didn't even question whether she was ready for it. It was just almost a natural progression over years of the way that Taja and I had been talking to each other. And I was well aware, again, when you do life with someone, and doing life with someone doesn't mean you talk every day or every week. I mean, sometimes Taja and I will go for 3 months and not talk, and we'll make a phone call, and the next thing you know, like 2 hours later, you're like, okay, we're caught up. All right. And so, how did I know? I wasn't surprised when she presented the opportunity and said, "Will you help me?" I said, "Yeah, let's do this together. This seems like a good fit for where you are, for where both of us are." And I think it's important for those watching. Succession doesn't mean that we become dead. Taja and I both have deliberately and intentionally focused on succession, and both of us to this day are focusing on new business opportunities for Taja and I that look different. And at some point, those successors, those mentees, will probably come in and take over the new businesses. We're far from dead, and so I knew it was right for Taja because it's Taja is not one to let her blade get dull.
Okay. Well, Jake, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll have Jake back in a few minutes, but so Jake, if you don't mind, and Frank, we'll bring Jake off camera now, and we're going to invite Andrea Kahrer back, or as Taja calls her Geiger. And I got the opportunity to meet someone that Taja got to work with her succession, and this was a very interesting conversation. And I'm not going to talk about any emotions that came into the play, but Andrea is a communications expert. She's adept at crafting compelling marketing narratives and driving persuasive presentations to various audiences. With stellar interpersonal skills, which I can attest for, she excels in team collaboration and relationship building. Known for ability to thrive under pressure, managing multiple tasks swiftly and meticulously, Andrea's vibrant energy, leadership, and proactive nature underscores a passion for marketing, media, and strategic partnerships. Reinforced for a deep understanding of audio and digital performance metrics, Andrea is a friend of ours now. Taja, thank you. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
So Andrea, you this isn't a question. Well, it is a question, but you had a life moment at work, and you had to make a phone call, but it was, we'll get to Taja's succession and mentoring, etc. But that relationship you guys built, can you explain how that happened and transitioned, and that relationship that transpired with you and Taja, that her mentorship helped you create your career path? So what was that relationship with you, and how did that trust develop? And then what happened?
Sure. So my relationship with Taja didn't happen overnight. We're talking many, many years. This is my 20th year in broadcast, and Taja's been present in all 20 of those years. Whether we are in the same building or not, whether we're on the same team or we're competing directly head to head against each other, or if I'm out of market, Taja was still involved in my life. And when, they were mentioning trust at the very beginning, that is what I would pinpoint our relationship to be. I can call Taja at any time, and she might not be able to answer the phone. I mean, we all have lives, right? But she will get back to me within 24 hours if she knows that I truly need her advice on something. Taja, as she mentioned, we can cry together, we can laugh together. She was there at my wedding. She knew when, was one of the first people to know I was having a baby. She knows all about Charlotte, and she calls me Geiger. My last name's Kahrer. I put it in parentheses because I didn't want people to be confused on the show, but, I'll always be Geiger to her. And that's just, she'll always be a rock for me, and I appreciate her.
Thank you, Andrea. Taja, when working with Andrea, how do you continue to maintain that level of trust so she feels comfortable to come to you, and maintain that ability to share so she knows that you're there to help her, but not, and understand her growth, but maintain that honesty so the relationship continues to grow?
Well, I think one of the important things is I don't have all of the answers. There would be times she might come to me and I'd be like, I don't know what to do with that. Let's go figure it out together. And that really kind of helps you to build upon it together in a unique way, because that's a part of the vulnerability, right? Like I would not say I'm the savant of all things or anything, but what I will do is try to figure out, okay, where are the right resources? Who should we go and connect with? And then protect and making certain, okay, is that guidance right? Is it right for Andrea Geiger for right now? Can I lend more to it? Should I play a back role to it and let others help in that? That's been the important part I think I've learned over time, is just to allow an environment to come in and help us, in the situation. And then there's been times that she has sought out support in other things. We've both been through a program called Rising Through the Ranks together. We've both gone through the Mildred Carter mentoring program together. And although we weren't in it at the same time, our experiences, we've been able to come back and share what that has represented in growing us professionally, and then also extending us personally, be it new networks that's linked to us of other women in the business or others in the business. But that's been really cool to experience as well with her. And it's been vice versa, right? She'll come to the table with something that I'm not really good at. And then I'm like, okay, help me here with that. A lot of that digital that I had to embrace. She was an early adapter. She was someone who was already in the space. And so I just leaned in with her and said, show me how you did that again. How does that work? And that's been really cool to experience together.
So has there been a time where the two of you have had either a difficult conversation or had to overcome something together? And Taja, if you could talk about how you approached that and how you got over that, and then Andrea will cover the same topic.
So we did have, so at this point in time, Geiger had moved on to a competitor. I was in a headspace in my career where it was very challenging for me. And I distinctly recall she was in the process of making some hires. It was some people that I kind of questioned. I was going through some things, trying to replace some people, trying to do some things. She made a call one day and I just was not in a good headspace. I was like, I can't even talk right now. I just don't know what to say, what to do. And it was not the best for me at the time. But what it did for me was allowed for me to grow and to say, okay, you have to put yourself beyond this and have a conversation and really stretch yourself to growing. So I think I recall, Geiger, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was a morning call, early morning. We were in the cars, or we were both headed to our offices. And it was like, okay, well, look, I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. I don't know how to help you with that, and it was that vulnerable moment of, hold on, take a breather. Let's regroup. All right, let's talk through this. What really is it that needs to happen here? But it was a lot of emotion on my part. I do recall crying as I'm sitting in the car, listening and hearing what was happening, and saying, "How am I going to help?" I just can't even. I personally am not in a good headspace. How can I possibly help her right now? That's all I kind of recall from the conversation. But I think at the end of it, we were able to walk away with some good nuggets. I know for me it's okay to not be all the time on and balanced, and feeling good. Because I think I'm a Libra at nature, so I'm always like, I got to be balanced. I got to have my world's got to be right, and that day was not a good day, but it taught me a lot, and I appreciate that she gave me space to be myself because she knew me, right? Like this wasn't a situation where she couldn't say, oh, that's just a different Taj altogether. But she knew me well enough to say, she's just going through some things. Let me stay in this moment. Let me push through with her and help get through. And I love that.
I love her for that. So it's a moment, not a lifetime. So Andrea, any situation that comes to your mind where it was a difficult conversation you guys had to get through, and what did you do to get through it?
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that situation up, Taja, because I can see that has left like a little bit of a scar on your heart, and like that moment you just needed to push through, and I needed to let you, and I appreciate you for bringing that up. But grace is such a beautiful thing, and that trust that our relationship has, give yourself grace on everything. I mean, you've taught me a lot about that. I would say that probably the hardest conversation that I ever had to have with Taja was not the first time that I left her, but the second time that I was leaving her. And, Taja has been my direct supervisor before. I had to resign to her to grow into another position that the company at the time that we were working at didn't have open for me, and the direct competitor did. And I think Taja taught me that choosing the highest good for the other person, even when you want, them on your team, is ultimately the best way to lead with love. And, you fear being taken advantage of in this world. But the trust that we had built with each other, even when things got tough, we knew that we believe in each other no matter what. And I think, that combined with Taja always allowing me to be my authentic self, let me explain to her exactly why I needed to make that move. If I hadn't have made that move, I'm not sure, given the state of things today, where I would be sitting and if I would be back in that building where we both were, but under different ownership of the person that I'd left for. You know, it's just crazy how the world comes full circle. But you know, I think the key part of that is that God doesn't give you what you want. God gives you what you need. And Taja has always, we've never always had what we both wanted, but we've both always gotten what we both needed.
Well, Andrea, thank you. And I know Taja well enough that if I don't transition to Jake and Kolton now, we're going to have a different Taja on the screen here. So, Andrea, and I appreciate that. So I appreciate that, Andrea. Thank you. I'll have you both back here in about 8 minutes or so, but thank you. And if Frank, if you don't mind bringing both Kolton and Kolton and Jake back on. Welcome back, Jake. Kolton Williford, welcome. It's nice to see you, a dedicated realtor in Indianapolis, where I'm heading this week, actually. But local 5 years, rooted history of community service through Shepherd Community Center. He's worked alongside with Kolton and his wife, Sarah, embodies hospitality, care in his personal professional life, often hosting engaging community activities. Passionate about real estate, Kolton is committed to addressing all residential needs with expertise and warmth, and I've seen that totally in Kolton since the day I met him. So welcome, Kolton.
Hey, thank you, Robert, and enjoy your time in Indy at the TikTok Lounge. Hope you enjoy that.
That's why we have St. Patrick's Day, by the way.
Absolutely.
Kolton, if I could start with you, you said something interesting during our conversation, and besides Jake opening his home to you and spending time there with him and his family, and the joy that you got from him, you said something about the one-on-one relationship you had with Jake and some of that he's given to you. And can you just unpack that for me and what that relationship meant for you from a mentorship perspective and how that helped you grow?
Absolutely. Yeah, I met Jake when I was 20 years old, and so I'm 30 now. So we've been a decade deep, and I was pretty rough around the edges when I met Jake. I was kind of an emotional train wreck. Emotions led my decision making, and so Jake kind of took me under his wing. He met me one night at his house and took me under his wing, asked me to come over the next day, and from there we spent a lot of Saturdays over the next 7 to 8 years, and me just riding along with Jake, running errands with Jake. And I just remember asking, I hope he wasn't annoyed, but I asked a million questions, right? I just asked as many questions as I could, and I just shut my mouth and I listened because I wanted to learn. And I love the way that he, what he stood for and how he lived his life. And I got a front row seat to his generosity to others, not only in business, but in personal life, personal, spiritual, professional, and all those ways. And so getting back and to get to watch him, you know, working for him in real estate, learning under him there, working for him in business, him helping me understand the power of relationships, the power of a network, and how that's the greatest currency we have, right? I think those are some of the big things that I took away from our relationship so far, right?
So then how do you prepare yourself, and how did Jake prepare you for this transition? So is there something you had to go through, or a mindset change, or how'd you get ready for that?
Yeah, to prepare myself for that, I would say getting my feet wet experiences. Jake gave me a lot of opportunities of experience in real estate, and saying, hey, we got this client on, why don't you go ahead and take this? And I'm going to come alongside you, and I'm going to make sure that you know what you're doing. You can run things past me. Him answering the phone at 10, 11 o'clock at night when he was probably laying down in bed and going, oh, geez, he's calling again, right? But being there consistently, right, day after day. And then also at my lowest moments, I think in the mentor-mentee relationship, there are these high peaks, and then there's these low valleys, right? Where one of us are going through something, and so failures, right? And him having every right to come to me and go, dude, you're a screw up, right? Not doing that, coming alongside me and said, okay, hey, here's a learning opportunity, right? You're going to learn from this. You're not going to make this mistake again. I love you. I care about you. And we're going to journey this together, and we're going to share in this failure, right? And so those are some of the things that I would share.
Thank you, Colton. So, Jake, I'm going to ask you to take a different perspective of this than building a legacy or succession planning. What have you learned from either Kolton or Geiger or Taja about what have they done for you that you could take away that your mentees have mentored you during this process?
Yeah, that's great. And I hate, by the way, I hate the name mentor and mentee, because to the point that you were just making, that's positional, and I don't like positional thinking, because what I've learned from Kolton, Andrea or Geiger, Taja, I mean, just tremendous amount of things. But if there was one main thing, it was the relationship. There's been times where I've had to beat up on Kolton, or beat up on Taja, or beat up on Geiger, because of something that happened, whether it was their fault or not their fault. But I felt so comfortable making that phone call and being able to say, hey, this isn't working, man. And knowing with absolute confidence and assurity that it would not create any damage to the relationship, because the trust had already been established, the love was there, and going back to something Geiger said, God provides. And so I always enter into these relationships with an understanding that we're safe, we're very safe with each other, and I'm allowed to lose my brain, in whether it's emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically. I'm allowed to lose my brain, and I know that Kolton, and Taja and Andrea are going to bring me back to home base, and they're not going to judge me that day or that evening or that phone call that I lost my brain. So what have I learned? I've learned more, specifically, I mean, from all of them, but specifically with Kolton. The humbling thing that keeps me where I need to be is that Kolton is going to do things far greater, far better, more efficient, and more productive than I ever imagined. And I can confidently say that, because there comes a point where you realize that I'm no longer the lead in this relationship. Kolton's the lead, and he starts to speak in a way and share in a way, saying things that are revelations to me, to go, wow, my gosh, the way that he's thinking is beyond a way that I thought or ever have thought. I know that in 10 years from now, I want to do this again, because I want to hear what Kolton's doing. I want to continue to learn from him. So I've become less, and Kolton has become more. I'm no longer the master, Kolton is, and I'm actually learning from him.
So, as I have the chills here, Jake, thank you. I'm going to bring everyone else back in, because the theme I've heard throughout this entire show has been nothing about technology, nothing about T&L, but everything I've heard over and over again is safe, love, trust in all of this. And I'd be remiss if I didn't want everyone to be on the screen to follow up and try to ride the show out here and get some feedback from everyone here. But it's been a humbling experience to be with all of you throughout these. Well, Taj and I started this mid last year, and we're finally driving this home. And I appreciate Taj. It won't be our last time all together, but I'd like to get you all, if we could just talk about some real. It's been a lot, but some real practice experience. So if you look back on what you've done through all your relationships, and you have this intertwined family of growth and development and care for each other. When you first started out, and I don't like that mentor-mentee with you guys, when you first started out with this family dynamic that you all have here, and these relationships, if anybody else that's looking to build something similar, a similar ecosystem to what you have, what advice are you going to give them when they start, when they run, when they grow? What do you want to leave to these people that want to do the same thing? Any last minute piece of advice? Any last thoughts on how to go about it, or what should they do while they enjoy this ride? Because what we learned, your ride's not over; it's going to continue. But what should they focus on to start, to enjoy, and to continue that ride? So, if you don't mind, Kolton, if we can start with you, if that's okay.
You're going to make me follow Jake after that? I'm just playing. I would just say,
well, you're going to exceed him anyway, Kolton. So
Hey, good
We'll
call.
save Jake for last then.
I would say, and again, a lot of what I talk about today, I've learned from Jake, right? Because I've listened and I participated in life with him. I've done life with him, right? But I think the big key is take greed out of the equation and everybody wins, right? When you're doing business together, when you're doing life together, take greed out of the equation, everyone wins. There is an abundance of opportunity in this world for all of us, and so that would be my advice.
Can you just repeat that again, everybody? Take greed out of the equation, everybody wins. I mean, that if that doesn't ring true for every situation I've ever seen in my life to make everybody happy, then that's fantastic. Kolton, I think you outdid Jake already. So Jake, I'm going to save you for last, so maybe we can see if you can top Kolton that one. So Andrew, if you don't mind trying to make Taja cry one last time. Taja, what kind of thought can you leave us for for our watching, for the people watching today, and what they can do to help continue this?
Sure. The advice I'd give somebody is to look at those around you who you see as a role model. I mean, when I was a baby, I saw both Taja and Jake as role models. Taja was who I aspired to be, and Jake was the client that I aspired to have, and once we were all in a circle together, they truly both, showed their hearts to me. They continue to show their hearts to me, and they show me what it is to lead with love. They really care about people. They really have good hearts. When they're in it with you, they're in it with you. They do their best to treat people well. It's the kind of leader that I want to do, that I want to be. I want to lead with my heart. Even if I don't show it to you all the time and every step of the way, I lead with love. And when you do that, you win. It makes you, the other thing is that be with people who makes you realize how much you've won. Just by sitting next to them on this, it just goes to remind me how much that we all have won together. So I appreciate it.
Wow. See, John Erickson loved that one also, but I wonder how many people are going to start quoting, be with people who realize how much you've won. So I'm taking these down. These are great quotes. I'll tag you all every time I post these, but I love that. So thank you, Geiger. Taja, any thoughts from you to the people who are out there today?
Yeah. So first of all, I do have my tissue. This might be obvious, but I'm going to say it out loud. It's not about you. It's not. When you are committed to making an investment to someone, it is about them. It is about what can I lend, what can I do to help make sure this individual that they want in the wholeness of their life. Again, it's not about can she add up mathematically, can she, put in the order correctly. Those things are going to happen, but what can I do to help her to stay strong mentally, to help her to endure some of the challenges that she will be faced with over time, right? It doesn't all come at once. And all of that is about the individual. It's not about me. The benefit that I get out of it is seeing that success and hearing the stories that made me cry today, and recognizing that this is a long-term relationship, that no matter where I am in life, geographically and in work wise, I know that Jake and Geiger and Kolton are there, and I can call on them.
Thank you, Tasha. No, you talk about servant leadership, but it's always about being authentic to people around you and give without asking. And it rings really true. It's really not about you. When you go to help someone, it's really about them. My favorite quote is, "You never stand so tall when you stoop to help a child, but when you're there to help people around you, it's critical to make it about them and not caring what you're taking out of that in return." I wish I had tissues with me, but anyway. So Jake, bring us home, please. This was a great treat to meet you, actually. And when Taja brought you to the table here, the insight I got from you with this, the short interactions we've had, have made me grow tremendously. So, please to give me some advice that I could take away from you and have the same experience that both Taja, Kolton, and Gaga have had. So, what can you leave for me and everyone else that has been listening to you for the last hour about what we can do for us?
Well, that pressure, right? I feel like I'm in a room full of masters here that are amazing because of the relationship that we share. So I don't know that I'm best qualified to answer that question, but if I had to summarize it, Robert, I would say to yourself, and I would say to anyone watching, the commonality or the common thread that everybody on this screen shares is that we have fundamentally shifted our perspective away from a mindset of scarcity. We don't operate in scarcity. We operate in setting a goal and achieving it. And everybody on this screen, what we have in common and what we actually encourage and empower each other to do is to have a mindset of abundance. Each of us in our own way today have reflected that, but not said that in our different language. I mean, Kolton made the comment that there's no shortage of opportunities. We say that stuff all the time. I've dealt with Taja on numerous things saying, you know what, let's just start calling people. I've dealt with Andrea going, yeah, no problem. I can get to it. I can do that. I can do it. There's an absolute mindset of abundance, which says there's no limitation on anything that any of us do. And much like Taja, I teared up on this call because I remembered a moment. Andrea and I were at a Pacers game, and I said to Andrea, I said, Geiger, how can I serve you? And we were talking, her and Chris, her husband, were there, and we were talking, and I said, how can I serve you? And her answer back to me, and I've asked Kolton the same thing, was help me help others. And that's just a mindset of abundance. It wasn't do this for me or do that for me, or they're already becoming less to help other people become more. And that's because we share a mindset of abundance. There's no limitations on us. And Robert, thank you. Thank you for bringing us together. It's because it's been a really kind of cool reunion, which I never expected to happen. So.
Well, Jake, Jen, over here, it's my pleasure. And it's, I'm gonna do something that I haven't done in the show yet, but when Taj and I met, I introduced her to one of my oldest and dearest friends, Scott Lasky, who does this for a living. But Scott's job was to be on TV, to do shows and everything. And this, and to, as you said earlier in the show, Jake, be humble and be authentic. And this, what I do here, is not easy. When Frank and John came to me and asked me if I want to do this, I did this just to be a servant to others, to help others, to give them a voice, to be heard, a platform to say what they want to say, for people to learn, for people to engage, to interact. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. While the sweat still pours down my back in every show, and I still have to have John tell me to slow down and take a breath, and still sometimes read too much, I do enjoy the opportunity to grow and learn and meet people like you. And I do, even though it's Sunday and I know I'm going to be around the block where Kolton works on Sunday, I hope he comes by on Sunday to meet up. And, if anyone's at the TikTok diner on Sunday in Indianapolis, I'll be there. But I'm happy that you guys are in my life, and happy we got the opportunity to do this, because succession planning and having the opportunity to give of yourself to someone else is really, really important. And if you're not building your legacy, then you're not going to have anything to remember you from where you are. So giving that is the best thing to do, to make sure that you leave your mark, and, as Jake says, on the hearts of others. And that, Jake, I'll take with me forever. So thank you. And thank you all. I appreciate it, everyone who's watching and commenting. I look forward to replaying this over and over again, and this is one I'll keep forever. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to our continued relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining Leading in the Digital Era, hosted by Robert Field. Look for more Leading in the Digital Era, presented by the Institute for Digital Transformation, coming to a LinkedIn Live session soon. Can't join Robert for the live session? You can catch the replay anytime on our YouTube channel.